Now to finish off this Sega September with a bang, I have asked many of my content creator friends to come on and recommend essential Sega games that you should play. So without further ado, let's get cracking with the knacking and get our first guest on. It's Upper Nimbus.
Hey guys, Upper Nimbus here. So Chicken Fillets has invited me to join his awesome collaboration for Sega September. And my choice for a Sega game that you should be playing is Stellar Glow. Stellar Glow is a strategy RPG developed for the Nintendo 3DS by Image Epoch, a now defunct gaming company that sadly became bankrupt back in the year 2015. They had initially developed Stellar Glow to celebrate their 10 years on the market, but sadly they just didn't have enough funding to keep the momentum going. Therefore, instead of self-publishing themselves, they had to go through Sega of Japan and also Atlas in North America. Stellar Glow follows the main character Alto, who happens to have amnesia. Gee, I wonder where I've seen that before. He lives in Mithra Village with his childhood friend Lizette. But then one day, an evil witch by the name of Hilda suddenly came out of nowhere over the town of Mithra Village, transforming the inhabitants of Mithra Village into crystals using the Song of Ruin. Beyond the aftermath, both Alto and Lizette survived the disaster. Alto then realized he had the power to awaken songs in the hearts of witches, and that's when Lizette became the Witch of Water. And thus, both Alto and Lizette embarked on an epic quest in hopes of saving the world before Hilda the Witch destroys it. Now, the gameplay of Stellar Glow is a little bit similar to Fire Emblem, as it is a tactical strategy role-playing game. Just like in many JRPGs, you can recruit allies and add them as party members to your team, and each character has their own special powers and abilities that they can perform within battle. But the most powerful and important characters to utilize within battle are the elemental witches themselves. Now, like I mentioned how there are elemental witches, the four elements of course include fire, water, earth, and wind, with each and every element having a strength and a weakness to each other. Now, the super duper awesome attacks that you can perform in this game is through the Song Stone meter to be able to unleash and perform song magic with the elemental witches. Once you're able to attain this, you're then able to perform conduction magic, which then affects the entire battlefield and all the enemies across the board. And the music slaps so hard in this game. There's some really awesome gems to listen to in this game, such as and also Chicken Fillets, my dude, thank you so much for having me on this collaboration. I love always collaborating with you, as well as looking forward to everybody's choice that's a part of this video. Until the next time, Upper Nimbus is signing off.
Upper Nimbus there with a stellar choice, a Stellar Glow choice. Yeah, I'm sorry. Next up, we have a new friend to the channel in the names of Just History Guy with a JRPG I've never heard of and played of. Let's have a look at this one.
Hey everyone, Just History Guy here, and I want to give a huge thanks to Chicken Fillets for having me on, as I'm really excited to be here with Fillets giving my channel a big shout out during my first month on YouTube, just a short while ago. But with my backstory and introduction out of the way, let's get into why we're all really here. We're here to talk about some essential and amazing Sega games that you should play. And boy, that's just too easy to do, that it makes it kind of hard. I want to talk about a lot of games, such as Yakuza 4, my introduction to that great series, or any mainline Persona or SMT game, even my shortish obsession with the Monkey Ball games. But I didn't choose any of these great titles. Today I'm talking about Raido Kuzunoha vs. the Soulless Army for the PS2. This game is a true unbelievable hidden gem that does not get the credit it deserves. Raido Kuzunoha is a slick and stylish action JRPG with a great demon monster collecting mechanic and an intriguing early 1930s occult detective story, just thrown on top for good measure. The game's setting is just, wow, man, it's original. Like I said, 1930s Imperial Japan, where a clash between modern traditional culture can be felt through every side character. That's just not something you see in every game. And while I love the monster catching and finding the many secrets, exploring the optional shrine dungeon with the hack and slash, also being not bad PS2 fun. The main standout for this game, though, is the atmosphere and cool lore that gets hinted throughout the game. You are Raido Kuzunoha, the 14th and newest member of the long line of Kuzunoha summoners, and you must prevent the disaster that approaches, and you get to do it all with the greatest cat sidekick around. Check out this game, because it does not get anywhere near the love it deserves. And with that, thanks again for having me on. I'm the Just History Guy, and on to the next.
Just History Guy with a cracking recommendation there, but it's not all about the JRPGs in this video. Let's get Jay from Cold Knights Gaming to tell us a recommendation of his.
Hey folks, Jay from Cold Knights here, and when my good friend Chicken Fillets asked me what I thought was an essential Sega game, I had to go with Hatsune Miku. Hatsune Miku, roughly translated, means first sound of the future. Miku burst into the scene in 2007 as a Vocaloid synthesizer program. With a run of games that span from the PSP to the Nintendo Switch, the series has sold 6 million copies. Featured in countless games, songs, with massive amounts of merchandise, and even performing as an opening act for Lady Gaga and on The Letterman Show, Hatsune Miku has reached unparalleled global fame. Aside from her own mainline games, Miku has appeared in countless rhythm games and simulators such as Idolmaster, Just Dance, and many of the other rhythm games Sega is known for. My personal favorite entry in the series is Project Diva Future Toad, which released on the PS4. It includes a massive catalog of songs, greatly expandable through DLC packs. It also features many other Vocaloids and a large array of costumes to unlock for each. The series is well known for its accessibility, with difficulties ranging from a fun, more simple easy mode to blistering, nearly impossible chains of notes to hit on the harder modes. The greatest thing about the series by far, in my opinion, is the incredible music and music videos that artists and creators have made across the globe. Hatsune Miku is not only a wonderfully enjoyable game, but has made a fun, inclusive community across the world of people who enjoy playing and working with the software and games. I'll leave you with one of my favorite of Miku's friends, Kato. Thanks for including me in this wonderful collab, Fillets.
Now, thank you to Jay for coming on and recommending that rhythm game. Now, to be honest, it's not one that I've played, but it's definitely one I've heard. Now, a person that you may have heard and is friends with the channel is the Big Brov. Let's see what he's saying.
Yo, YouTube, what is good, bruv, going what is good, and hello to all Chicken Fillets fans. Huge shout out to Chicken Fillets for having me be part of this, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, this collaboration didn't come easy. When Chicken Fillets had hit me up about the idea about essential Sega games you should play, at first I thought my choice would be super easy. Seems as though I was very wrong. So at the start, I wanted to pick Valkyria Chronicles, but sadly that was gone, so that was a big bummer. And then I wanted to go into my favourite Sonic game of all time in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and to my surprise, yet again that choice was gone. So we ended up here, and I think an essential Sega game you guys should play is Sonic Heroes. So the reason I personally picked Sonic Heroes is because I have such fond memories of the game. I remember being absolutely infatuated with the game as a kid in primary school, bringing a manual into school to read with friends, and pretending I was my favourite character Knuckles in the playground. Sonic Heroes for me was such a huge nostalgia trip and a big part of my childhood. Now, nostalgia aside, Sonic Heroes is a game I have personally not revisited in many years, but even after watching gameplay, I still can remember so many of the game's fun mechanics. Sonic Heroes essentially allows you to play as one of 4 teams: Team Sonic, Team Rose, Team Dark, and Team Chaotix. I love just how unique each team played throughout that game, with each level varying in difficulty and objective depending on the team you picked. The gameplay loop in Sonic Heroes was something I always found to be fun, allowing you to switch from 3 different abilities each character had to advance within the level. These abilities range from speed, power, and flight. As a kid, I always found it so fun switching so effortlessly through a speed portion of the level with Sonic, then switching to Knuckles to use power to take out strong enemies or break barriers, or Tails' flight ability, which was limited but got you through parts of the level where flight was required. So one thing I always loved about Sonic games growing up was the soundtracks, and the soundtrack within Sonic Heroes is something that I actually still go back and listen to this day in fondness. It's one thing that I absolutely love, and it's definitely something that I do recommend people listen to. So if you guys couldn't already tell, Sonic Heroes is a game I adore so much, and while I'm not sure how well the game has aged, I still think it's an essential Sega game everyone needs to play.
Big Brov there with Sonic Heroes, a utter classic of a Sega game. Now, we've got another person new to the channel here, and we've got Pat from Frames on here to recommend a Sega game for you.
Hello you beautiful people, I'm Pat from Frames, aka Friends and Games. Thanks to my delectably named buddy Chicken Fillets for giving me time to talk about a Sega game I really like. Sega is one of my all-time favourites when it comes to publishers. They have so many brilliant games that are just astounding and fun to play. Sonic Heroes, Valkyria Chronicles, Persona 5 and Sega Rally to name a few. But there is one I really wish to discuss and spread the love for, and that is Resonance of Fate. Resonance of Fate is a weird game and is one of the most unique experiences I have ever had the pleasure to experience. Its gameplay isn't like anything else I've ever played, semi-real-time but turn-based combat. Now, huge warning, its combat system takes a good bit of time to get the hang of, and I nearly give up on the game. But when it clicked with me, my god, it was something else altogether. You have a small area you fight in, choosing which direction to go and then deciding what you're gonna shoot. That's the basic gist of combat, simplified. I've never played anything like it before, and that's saying something with the sheer quantity of games I've played. The game is plastered onto my mind. The more I think of it, the fonder I become of it. It's slowly becoming one of my favourite games ever, with its Hollywood action movie-like style attacks that are seriously cool. I mean, they're so cool. It's super impressive graphics, charming characters that are just fun, even if it takes a while for them to start really bouncing off each other. A really interesting customization system for weapons. It's class crack, maxing out your guns with as much equipment as possible, along with an addictive tile-based system to unlock new areas that just makes you want to clear out all the areas, and a brilliant level system that grows based on the weapons you use. It also has one of the most insane and intense last missions to a game that had me wishing it had never ended. Really pushes you to be as good at the system as possible and abuse the fuck out of it, especially with some of the last bosses. The music is also great, it's really good, it gets you into the thick of things. And while I would love to talk about this unbelievable PS3 game more, I'll leave it there so I don't hijack this whole entire video. On to the next friend to talk about games. Also, Resonance of Fate's opening is sick. Go watch it.
Pat from Frames there with a JRPG classic. Well, a notorious classic to some people. No, there is a fantastic JRPG that you should play. Now, we have another friend of the channel who's been on many collaborations before. Yes, it's Colin Lack.
Thanks again for having me on, Chicken Fillets. This collab is going to be a fun one to see once it's all finished. When you told me it was Sega related, I was tempted to take you up on the offer to talk about a fighting game. I even contemplated going with Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown for my entry. However, I don't love Virtua Fighter as much as I love other fighting games, and we already know that Sega has Virtua Fighter 6 in the works thanks to how well the PS4 remaster of 5 did. So I scrapped that idea rather quickly. I then opted for a game I'm going to talk about today, which is one of my all-time favorite JRPGs, and it's from a franchise I think is likely dead. Yeah, about that. I'm gonna be talking about Valkyria Chronicles Remastered. I think Valkyria Chronicles is one of Sega's most special IPs, and every gamer should at minimum consider playing it. But why did I say I think the franchise is dead? So, Valkyria Chronicles is likely a dead franchise off the poor performance from the latest entry in the series, which is Valkyria Chronicles 4. I'm actually working on a video for that topic on my own channel. Anyways, I think you should play the remaster of the original Valkyria Chronicles. So I alluded to this earlier, Valkyria Chronicles is one of the most special games I've ever played. I knew I was going to love it from the time we first got trailers for it in late 2007 or early 2008. I don't remember exactly when the game was announced. The game launched exclusively for the PS3 in late 08. I picked it up in the middle of 09 when I was able to find it on sale at EB Games, now GameStop, for only 20 Canadian bucks. Major steal in my eyes. Anyways, I'm talking about the remastered version because it'll be the easiest edition of the game for everyone to pick up, as it's on all previous generation hardware and PC. At the time of recording, it's actually on sale on Steam for $5.49 Canadian. So Valkyria Chronicles is a strategy RPG with third-person shooter elements. That alone makes it a unique experience. The graphics are also very visually striking, as well as they give a watercolor painting aesthetic. I actually feel like Sega should license this particular engine to other developers or allow Atlus to use it for some of their games, as it's way too unique an engine to let die. To my knowledge, it has only ever been used for Valkyria Chronicles titles, but if you want a game that has absolutely gorgeous aesthetics, has a unique gameplay style, and has really emotional story that will make you laugh, cry, and rage in equal parts, then Valkyria Chronicles is a game you have to at minimum consider picking up. If I'm being honest, it's one of my all-time favorite games for these reasons alone, and it being so unique is the reason I stuck around as a gamer, as it came out during a time where I was finding fewer and fewer games that were keeping my interest. The PS3 was a weird time in gaming. So, have you played Valkyria Chronicles, either the original PS3 version or the remastered edition? Let myself and Chicken Fillets know in the comments section. Also, thanks again for having me on, dude. I can't wait to see what some of the other creators discuss, and as always, I hope we can collaborate more in the future. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.
Colin Lack there with a fantastic pick in Valkyria Chronicles. Now, the next people that we've got, because I've said people because it's plural, we have got the review ting on this. So we've got both Graham and James recommending 2 Sega games that you should play.
When most people think of the F-Zero franchise, they think of Nintendo. But what if I told you that one of the best F-Zero games wasn't even made by Nintendo or released on a console? I'm Graham for the Review Ting, and I'm going to talk about F-Zero AX. This is an arcade racing game developed by Sega but published by Nintendo alongside F-Zero GX that came out for the GameCube. F-Zero AX features the same intense, high-speed racing action that the series is known for. The goal is to race to the finish line while avoiding hazards and rival racers. The high speeds and narrow tracks can make it difficult for newcomers to the series, but experienced players often find the game to be thrilling and a good test of reflexes and skill. This utilises the Sega Triforce arcade hardware, which was a collaboration between Sega, Namco and Nintendo. This hardware allowed for impressive graphics and sound, enhancing the overall gaming experience, and is often praised for maintaining the series' reputation for fast-paced racing action. One cool thing about this is players could experience the game by using a dedicated F-Zero AX arcade card, or by connecting their GameCube memory card containing F-Zero GX data and transfer it to the arcade machine. By linking the two games together, players could transfer custom vehicles and lockables between the arcade and console version, and this cross-game functionality added a whole new depth to the F-Zero X experience. F-Zero AX and F-Zero GX together offered a unique arcade and console gaming experience, allowing players to extend their F-Zero ventures beyond their homes and into the arcade. Although there hasn't been a new F-Zero game released since F-Zero GX, the franchise remains beloved by fans, and the game is still enjoyed by gamers who appreciate the high-speed, futuristic racing action. Now I'm hoping with this announcement of the F-Zero 99, we are in for a new F-Zero X game. Here's hoping.
Thanks John for having me on. So my essential Sega game is actually on the PSP. Don't you say anything, John.
Hi, this is John, aka Chicken Fillets, and I'm sorry to interrupt this video. However, I would just like to swiftly remind everyone that James has given up on the PSP.
Anyways, so yeah, my game, my pick is on the PSP, and that is Outrun Coast to Coast. So this is one of those fantastic games on the PSP. It brings the arcade racing experience to the palm of your hands, which is just amazing. This portable version of the classic game manages to capture the essence while offering new features tailored to on-the-go gaming. The gameplay in Outrun Coast to Coast remains faithful to its arcade classic, because this game is amazing on the arcade. Why wouldn't you want to play it on the go? You have sleek sports cars that take a series of iconic routes with its unique scenery and challenges. The core of the gameplay involves high-speed racing, navigating through traffic, making split-second decisions, and loads of obstacles that come in your way. The thrill of the open road and the wind is in your hair is translated to the small screen, making it a really enjoyable arcade experience. The graphics are scaled down on this port though, so don't be expecting anything too crazy. This game is an absolute delight to play on the PSP though. It's really easy to pick up and play, the handling of the car is really responsive, and you can maneuver all around the place at the fastest speed you can possibly get it to. This soundtrack is also one of the best out there. It is really well produced on the PSP. It includes some classic tunes as well that you'll thoroughly enjoy. I actually enjoyed it that much that I have it on vinyl. Like I say, it has all the charm of the original arcade game just in a very portable experience, so it has to be played. This is one of the best out there essential games that you need to play on the PSP. Whether you've played the game before or this is your first time, I guarantee you will have a ton of fun with this. So do yourself a favor, get out and play this game. It is an absolute beast on the PSP.
So there we have Graham and James with their choices. Now just remember that James has given up on the PSP, and remember to put hashtag James has given up on the PSP down in the comments down below. Now another friend of the channel you have may seen on here before is Luca from Fieto Gaming. Let's have a look.
Hello lovely people, I'm Luca from Fieto Gaming, and I'm also here to talk about an essential Sega game you should play. Now, for me, this could only be one game, and one game alone, since nothing else in this world makes me feel more nostalgic than this. I'm talking about Phantasy Star Online. I know, this game is old. The first version came out in 2000 on a Dreamcast, but much like the very first Phantasy Star Online is a milestone in gaming history. It was the first MMORPG on a home console, and for that reason alone, it's worth checking out, just to see where it all began. But of course, this game is still super fun today. Well, at least for me. For those of you who don't know, in Phantasy Star Online you explore a planet that should become the new home to humanity. Well, things don't go as planned, so you group up with your friends to solve the mysteries behind this planet. And what better way to do research than slaughtering innocent creatures living on that planet, right? I'll admit that the combat feels quite dated and clunky for the most part, but the gameplay loop is incredibly addicting. Because in Phantasy Star it's all about leveling up and finding the best loot. There are hundreds of unique weapons, armor and other stuff to find, and to trade with your friends. And every single one can make a huge difference in how the game plays. There are 3 main classes with 4 different characters, all with their own advantages and disadvantages. While creating a character, you're assigned a section ID, which determines what loot you get. That way you can potentially get cool weapons your friends are not able to find. That loop, that constant search for the best item in the game and the feeling of finally obtaining what you grinded for hours is irreplaceable. I remember playing the game with my brothers for countless hours on the GameCube when I was a teenager, and then later on private servers. This is probably one of my most played games of all time, with an estimated total playtime of roughly 3,500 hours over the years. Honestly, grab your friends, find a cool private server, and just try it out. This game is so much better than what the Phantasy Star series became, especially that stupid New Genesis nonsense. I'm sure you will have a great time with that. Thanks so much, John, for inviting me once again to this amazing collab. Alright guys, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you to Luca once again for being on another collaboration video, and I'm sure we'll have him back on here in the future. Now, someone who is new to the channel, who I've been on their channel before, it's Mad Kaiser.
Hey everyone, what up? Mad Kaiser here, and thanks to Chicken Fillets for allowing me to be a part of this collab. It was an absolute honor. Now, I was given a chance to talk about an essential Sega game that you should play. And to be honest, I could have gone with things like Bayonetta in a sense, or even some other JRPGs. but I decided to go on what Sega is mostly known for, and one that means a lot to me, especially even due to my, early days of my YouTube channel, and that is Sonic Mania, especially with the Plus version. Now, Sonic Mania Plus is a return to the form to the good old classic Sonic days from the Sega Genesis Mega Drive, harkening back to Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic CD. And how this one compares itself is absolutely just wonderful. Even though most of the levels are from prior Sonic games like Green Hill and Chemical Plant, once you get to say Act 2 of their levels, it completely transforms the experience. The level design is so fantastic to go around and have multiple pathways and just have fun to speed through. The gameplay itself just feels as great as it was in the classic games, with the addition of the drop dash, which is so amazing. It's become a new feature for future Sonic titles, which is absolutely amazing. Not only that, but honestly this game looks absolutely beautiful, and the music, my god, T-Lopes killed it with this music. Oh my god, so many good tracks. And even though most of the past levels are there's also some good original levels like Studiopolis and Press Garden being some good highlights, which is absolutely phenomenal. And if you have the Plus version, you also get things like the return of Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel, two characters that were sort of long and forgotten, brought back, and just they absolutely play good, with Mighty being my favorite of the edition. And you have things like Encore mode, which allows you to play through certain stages with a more interesting color filter, as well as the likelihood of changing the gameplay up a bit, as well as things like having different types of special stages like the return of Blue Sphere from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, as well as my opinion the best Emerald Challenge for any classic Sonic game. It's just absolutely phenomenal. This game means a lot to me, and I absolutely love it. And honestly, if you're a fan of platformers, especially the good old days of classic Sonic, then you must absolutely get it. It's absolutely worth it. So thanks again, Chicken Fillets, for allowing me to be here.
Mad Kaiser there with Sonic Mania, an utterly fantastic Sega game that you should play. Now, next up on the channel is someone new that you haven't seen on here before, but you may have seen him over on his channel. It's Brendan from Just the Gems.
Hey friends, I'm Brandon from Just the Gems. Thanks to Chicken Fillets for having me on to talk some Sega. We don't talk enough about Sega, everyone. I know on my channel I'm JRPG focused, so naturally there's a bit less to say than with Sony or Nintendo, but Sega was such a huge part of my childhood. My Sega game all-timer that I consider essential is none other than Echo the Dolphin. If you haven't played it, let me fill you in. You are a dolphin. If you're a dolphin lover, then you've already run through the wall of your home, leaving a perfect cartoon outline of yourself to find a copy of this game. But if you need a bit more, then consider this. You're a dolphin whose pod has been kidnapped by aliens, and you must set off on a time-hopping quest to save them. And the world. Weren't expecting crazy sci-fi in your dolphin game? Well, neither was I when I popped this bad boy into my Genesis back in 1993, and it blew my mind. I remember reading about how the developers studied actual dolphins in order to get the animations as accurate as possible, and it shows. I mean, sure, there's only so much you can do with low-resolution pixel graphics, but it's convincing enough. The gameplay involves swimming through underground caves, solving environmental puzzles, getting slapped in the face by the most terrifying octopus ever digitized. It's a trip. To me, this was an example of what Sega did that Nintendo didn't. This felt like a big take a chance sort of game, even back in the day, and it showed that Sega was willing to bet big on unusual ideas in their efforts to unseat Nintendo as the king of video games. And this is coming from a kid who had both Genesis and Super Nintendo, but definitely preferred my Super NES overall. Still, there were these experiences that could only be had on the Genesis, and Echo the Dolphin will always have a special place in my heart as one of the definitive Sega Genesis games.
So there we have Just the Gems with the fantastic and brutally hard at times Echo the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis. Or my side of the pond, it's the Sega Mega Drive. Now next up on the channel, someone I've been wanting to get on for a good long while. It's Femtrooper.
Hey everybody, it's Femtrooper, and thank you to Chicken Fillets for having me on to talk about a Sega game that I think everybody should definitely check out, and that is Yakuza Like a Dragon. I didn't really grow up with Sega because I was a Nintendo kid, but now I've played some more recent Sega titles, and obviously there aren't any Sega consoles that are current, but we get Sega games on other consoles, and the Yakuza series is amazing, but this is one, wow, I really gotta recommend. Yakuza Like a Dragon is a JRPG, but it's so different from everything else that's out there. For starters, the main characters are like in their 40s, so you're already getting a completely different experience. This isn't about kids or teenagers or high school students or anything like that. These are characters in their 40s, they're middle-aged with actual problems, it's modern day. It's very, very, very wacky as well because it's Yakuza, so you're getting the weirdest stuff. It's in Japan, but you're also getting a really deep and dark and serious mature story. You play Ichiban, who is a Yakuza who's been in jail for the past 18 years, and he gets out, and I'm not really going to say much more than that, but he's obviously looking for, you know, everyone he was with before, and things are a little bit different, and he meets people who are not in the Yakuza and starts sort of this interesting story and adventure, but it's all in modern day. And the best part, he loves Dragon Quest, and everything he does, he sees kind of like, he sees himself as the hero of a Dragon Quest game. So you're playing this guy in a modern day setting, but he is the hero of a Dragon Quest game. It plays out very much like a Dragon Quest game. It really has that feeling of an old school turn-based JRPG, but set in modern day. It's Yokohama. It's really, really cool. It's wacky, it's bizarre, the music is great, it's funny, you will cry, you will be upset, you will feel every emotion playing this game, so I cannot recommend it enough. Thank you again to Chicken Fillets for having me on his channel to talk about an amazing Sega game that I absolutely think you guys have to check out. So please check out my channel when you get a chance, and I'll see you guys in my next video.
Femtrooper there with a fantastic and definitely an essential Sega game that you should play in the form of Yakuza Like a Dragon. Fantastic. Oh, wait 1 minute. I forgot to... I forgot to phone Generation Pixel. I better get... Yeah, 2 minutes. Boop, 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 beep, beep.
Oh, hello Chicken Fillets, my old mucker. Now what can I do for you today? What? Really? You didn't want me to talk about Final Fantasy 7 or surely Suikoden, because let's face it, he doesn't know how to pronounce Suikoden, and the more people I get into pronouncing Suikoden properly, the better. Anyway, I better get back. It's Chicken Fillets. I can, but don't worry, I'll definitely got something for you on that, right? Alright, mucker, right, cheerio. Hello friends, my name's Stuart and this is Generation Pixel, and my good friend over at Chicken Fillets, he's just been on the phone to me and he's asked me to talk about what Sega games you should still be playing or playing at the moment. And for me, there's only one answer to that. Even though my history with Sega goes back right back to the beginning, where I would be playing games like Outrun and Hang On in the arcades, and also they gave me my very first experience of a JRPG in the wonderful Phantasy Star on the Sega Master System. But today I'm going to talk about not just one game you should be playing, but a whole series of games that you should be playing that are all from House Sega, and that is the Yakuza series. And why, you may ask, the Yakuza games? Well, for me they're quite typically the most typical and best Sega games that you can buy and play today. And it all started back on the PlayStation 2 with the first game, Yakuza. Now most people will probably tell you that the Yakuza games were not maybe a direct offshoot, but certainly influenced by Shenmue. But for me, as good as Shenmue is, it's not quite to the standard that they reached when they got to the Yakuza series. Because as most of you will know out there, Yakuza didn't stop with just the one game, it went on to have a whole host of sequels. And my personal journey with the Yakuza games started with the almighty Yakuza 0. Now Yakuza 0 didn't come out in the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3 where the game originated. It was a PlayStation 4 game and it was an update to what we had before. It is a prequel game, but you don't need to play it in any particular order. You can start with 0, but quite frankly I would recommend you start with the first Yakuza game, or at the very least Kiwami, which was the HD remaster of the original game, and that is where I played it first. Still haven't played this boy here. Now this of course led on to an obsession, and let me just by the magic of television bring up all the Yakuza games that I'm recommending you play. And there you have, all of a sudden, Yakuza 1 through 6. So you're starting with 6 fantastic games. But what is it that Yakuza does that makes it not only a must-play game, but a must-play series? Well, especially for me, and that is mainly due to the fact that this is one fantastic continuous story which follows the trials and tribulations of one of the best video game characters of all time, and that is the remarkable Kiryu. Now of course there's plenty of other video game series that have a character with a long story arc that passes through several games, but not many of them can say that they've passed through 6 games and even make appearances in the offshoot games. And talking about the offshoot games, you don't get many better offshoots than you get from the Yakuza series. And the finest of these offshoots, Yakuza Like a Dragon. And why Yakuza Like a Dragon is obviously to me one of the best offshoot games ever made for any series is because for the first time the Yakuza series went fully JRPG with turn-based battles and a fantastic job system to work your way through. Now I know Chicken Fillets is a thing about job systems, but the job systems in Yakuza Like a Dragon is fantastic. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Perfection. And yes, Kiryu does make an appearance when it comes to Yakuza Like a Dragon, but in the form of a summon. Now if you're not a fan or don't play many JRPGs, a summon is basically a high powered move where, like the title of the move, you summon a high powered creature to come in and help you out with whichever battle you're struggling with. And Kiryu makes an appearance as a summon in Like a Dragon. And of course there's other offshoot games as well, such as Judgment and Lost Judgment, where you're taking on the role of a brand new character again, but slightly different gameplay. And finally in the Yakuza from my collection at the moment, until the new one comes out, you have Yakuza Ishin, which not only uses Kiryu as a character, but not the same character that's in the Yakuza games, but takes you back to the 1800s in Japan, where you're seeing a dramatic change to the structure of politics in Japan, but playing it through the eyes of not Kiryu, but it is Kiryu, and you're going to be a samurai in this one, which is absolutely fantastic. But what is more important about either the storylines, the characters, the different styles of a gameplay, is the love and devotion that Sega put into their history within these games. Because within these games, with the exception of Ishin because it's set in the 1800s, you can play old classic Sega arcade games. Games like Space Harrier and Hang On, they're all in these games, and you can go into a Club Sega and play them just about any time you like. So if you're sitting on the fence about Sega and you want to go out and maybe discover them, then I don't think there's a better place to start than with Kiryu and Majima and all the absolute nonsense that goes with the Yakuza games. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and talk about my Sega games that you must play, but I'll pass you back over now to Chicken Fillets.
So there we have Generation Pixel recommending every Yakuza game under the sun. I mean, you've got to get them played. Now it's time for my pick. Now you'll know that I am a big Sega fan. This is why I do Sega September. This is why this is the second Sega September, and we will keep on going with Sega September next year and for the foreseeable future. But I wanted to recommend an essential Sega game. Now this is going to be one that you wouldn't actually think, because I could have recommended the likes of Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles amongst many other Sonic games, but there was one Sonic game which was my game of the year for 2022, and that is Sonic Frontiers. Now this is available on the likes of the PlayStation, the Xbox, on PC, and as I have it here, the Nintendo Switch. And yes, it was my game of the year for 2022. Now the reason for this, now Sonic in general, when it comes to 3D games, we know the history there. It's not always the best of experiences, but to me this felt like Sonic Adventure 3. I loved everything about this game. I loved the open world, and really it made me feel like I was Sonic properly. You got to have that high speed action with Sonic here. You got to take on massive titans. These titans are just unbelievable to fight as well. And the music for this, the metal tracks which play during the big boss battles. Now, you'll know me, I'm a big metal head, and this is just, so good. This is the direction that the 3D Sonic games are going towards. I am all for it. Now this game does have plenty to offer, and with the release upcoming of the final update, which has got more story content, you can play as your friends the likes of Knuckles, Tails and Amy Rose. There is even a more reason to go back and play this game, or if you've not played it before, this new DLC is free to play, as is all the DLC, which makes the game even better from its original release. There was a reason this game was my game of the year for 2022. I loved every second of it, and I personally feel that is an essential game for your Sega collection. So there we have it. These are the essential Sega games that you should play, according to me and my content creator friends. Now if you enjoy what you're seeing on the channel, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. And if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, please hit that notification bell. This has been Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye!